Welcome to Nathan Runs His Freakin' Mouth from Geek, Alabama. Nathan has a lot to say about today's current events, and with also being on the autism spectrum, he's not afraid to speak his mind. And now, here's your host, Nathan Young.
Hello everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Nathan Runs His Freakin' Mouth. So, for the first 5 episodes of this podcast series, I'm talking about issues in Anniston I want to talk about before this election coming up for the city, which is arguably, I would say, this election coming up for Anniston is probably one of the most important elections in this city's history. If Anniston wants to survive and grow, it needs to elect the right people. And I'm doing this series because I want to talk about these issues so people could vote for the right people in this election and not for the idiots. So in episode 2, let's talk about another big elephant in Anniston's room, and that's the school system. As you know, Anniston schools are not doing very well. I think we've all noticed that. I mean, Anniston schools spend some of the most money per student of any school system in the state of Alabama. That's documented to be true. And for all that money we're spending per student in the Anniston school system, the results we're getting from the students are not very high. So, all this money we're spending, where is it going? Why is it not helping the kids much? What's happening here? You know, it's if a parent moves to the Anniston Oxford Metro, you know, they might move to, they might be considering moving to the Anniston Oxford Metro. There's no way they're going to move into the city limits of Anniston unless they can afford to send their kids to a private school like Donahoe Faith Christian, or they can homeschool them. They're not going to, unless it's the last resort, they're not going to send their kids to the Anniston city school system because it's not that great. That's, being honest, that's the truth. The Anniston school system's not that good. And I don't know what you can do to fix the schools, to be honest. I mean, I commend the teachers for doing the best job they can, but the students, they're not learning to the full potential. And I think a lot of it has to do with the school buildings and the administration and the people that run the school system. They're not doing a very good job running the school system, and the results show it. I mean, as the schools, the grades for the school system are in the dumps. So what can you do to fix Anniston schools to make it better? I mean, I hate to say this. I know this is not going to make some people in Anniston happy here. But my recommendation to fix the schools in Anniston, dissolve the city school system. Just kill it. Let the Calhoun County schools take over what's left of Anniston city schools. Because the reason why I say this is because the county schools have a lot more programs and resources available to help their students. They have a big career technical program up there in Jacksonville. They've got more programs in their schools and the high schools for students. I mean, yes, there's some good things Anniston High is doing with its firefighter, culinary, and stuff like that, but the county schools offer so much more. The resources are better, and they know what they're doing. And I know that's going to piss the people off here in Anniston. He's going to say, oh, I'm racist because I think Anniston schools suck. No. Every kid should have the full opportunity to get the education they need so they can be successful in life. And right now, Anniston schools are not providing the resources and the educational opportunities for the kids for them to succeed in life. They're not. I mean, it's just not happening. And during those de-annex meetings we had earlier in 2020 before the pandemic hit, I remember our state senator asking the crowd, raise your head if their kids go to Anniston City schools. And about the 200 to 300 people that are in there, I think only 3 or 4 people raised their hands. So that should tell you something. Anniston City schools suck. And they need some drastic changes now. Because all it's doing is sucking up taxpayer money for no reason, and the students aren't benefiting from it. And I know that's going to piss some people off, but just get rid of the school system. Let the county take over. Plain and simple. And in this episode, not only am I going to talk about the schools, I'm also going to talk about the problems with Anniston, especially its city government, which have been corrupt and neglected for decades. This city has elected some of the worst city councilmen and mayors this city has ever seen. While Oxford and Jacksonville prosper, Anniston's going down to tubes and the dumps. And part of the problem is the city government, the mayor and the city council that gets elected by the people every 4 years. You got some people on the city council that shouldn't be there. That all they do is run their mouth, they scream, it says me, 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 me. Who cares about everybody else? And me, me, me doesn't work. It has to be us, us, us for a city to prosper. And that's what Oxford's doing. That's what Jacksonville's doing. That's what other cities around here are doing. That's not what Anniston's doing. I've seen people complain online that it takes forever. And there's so many hoops to get through to try to open a small business in Anniston. You have to deal with the city government. There's so many rules and regulations you have to follow and meet just to open a small business in Anniston. And there shouldn't be that many barriers to try to open something in Anniston. Never like that. If that's true, that needs to change now. I think another thing this city needs to look at is its form of government. Right. In Anniston, the mayor doesn't run the city. Mayor's kind of like a mayor. He's mostly more of like a city council member. Let's just be honest about that. Anniston has a city manager that's privately hired that pretty much runs the city. And I don't know. I don't think the city manager form of government is working for Anniston. just drive up and down Anniston, see all the empty buildings, and read the local news about all the shootings that happened, including a video of a big shootout in West Anniston that happened last weekend. And a guy that got murdered in downtown last weekend. Just in the last recent few days. Anniston city form of government's not working. It's just not working. It's not working well. It's not functioning well. And I think part of the problem is the current form of government. That's one thing I'm going to agree with. That's one city councilman that's pretty racist. I do think Anniston's has got to change its form of government. The mayor should be running the city. The mayor should be elected to run the city, not the city manager. I don't know why Anniston's wasted all this money trying to hire a city manager where the mayor should be doing everything. And it puzzles my mind that a city would choose not to let the mayor run the city. Why is that? I don't get that. And if you go up and down through Anniston today, you see how this current form of city government's not working for the city at all. I mean, you see all these decayed buildings, you see these terrible roads, you see these crime figures that keep going up, you see how the schools are not functioning well. Every function of city government, it's not working properly. I don't know what you can do to change it. I mean, I think it takes the legislative act to change the city form of government. I think it has to be done. I think Anniston's got to pull up his big boy britches and finally admit it's time for change. And I hope when after this election, when we maybe have a new mayor, we'll have at least one new city councilman, and maybe a few others, they'll decide to vote to change. Because I think a change would help this city move forward. If Oxford could have the mayor run the city, if Jacksonville could have the mayor run the city and see how well they're kind of doing, Anniston should copy that and quit the city manager's crap. Because I just don't think it's working well. I mean, and as for the schools, I'm not going to get pushback for people saying, "Oh, the city form of government's fine. It's running well." No, it's not. Come on now. You go up and down downtown on Noble Street, see all the empty buildings for sale and rent. I mean, if you go out during the night, last weekend on Saturday night, you'll see the guy laying there on the ground shot on the side of Noble Street in downtown. If you watch that video online of that motorcycle club on West 15th and West Anniston, where the shootout, people hide behind their cars for their safety, and cars speeding down the road shooting. That's not a city well run. That's a city in chaos. A city that's in dire need of big changes. A city that needs some drastic measures for it to come back, or it's just going to die. So, will Anniston come back? I don't know. I don't think he can. I just don't see it. I don't know. I mean, there's so much crap things happening in this city that I just don't see it coming back, and I think the city's just going to wither away. But maybe the few citizens that care about Anniston will finally force some changes to make it better. Because the good old boy politics system that works in the city government in Anniston is not working. It needs to be dumped now. pretty much. Alright, thank you all for listening to episode 2 of my podcast. I hope you keep on listening. I enjoy recording these in video and audio form. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Nathan Runs His Freakin' Mouth. For more stories, videos, coverage, and podcasts, log on to geekalabama.com.